Talk to me about the importance and benefits of grounding in relationship to intuition and developing
Yeah.
intuition.
So, first, when I talk about grounding, and I know when you do too, we're talking about the ability within your mind to, so you can ground yourself through a creative visualization, do it intuitively by tapping into your intuitive abilities or your clairvoyant abilities, your ability to visualize or see or know. And so, when we talk about grounding, we're not talking about using a physical object outside of ourselves to ground ourselves. We're just talking about being able to create within your mind the ability to ground yourself. And so, because I know there are a lot of different definitions that
Different
people
methods.
have when they talk about grounding, but so being able to ground yourself that's where I start every day. When I wake up in the morning, it, it's
So like
like,
foundational.
yeah, grounding our us or whatever,
Yeah.
the toys are it's like grounding our us. So
Yeah.
first in the morning, it's
First
like
step. Yeah.
that is when I ground myself. And then many times I'll check in throughout the day to see if I'm grounded, because the moment that I ground myself, I come into my body. So it's a way of anchoring ourselves as the soul presence that we are, as the light that we are, as the awareness that we are, being able to anchor ourselves and be present in our bodies and connect to our senses and connect to everything that is going on in the space around us rather than trying to operate outside of our bodies. The world is a very out of body place because of everything that's going on. It's such a wild place. It's very ungrounding. Nature, of course, is very grounding.
Yeah.
And animals, are very grounding and all that. But most of the time, the world is sort of throwing us out of our bodies. And
Yeah.
then it's harder to access our intuition. It's like trying to drive your car remotely, like something like that, or
People do it, but it's
exactly.
not
But
as effective or safe.
so you start to become aware of when you're not grounded and when you are grounded. And speaking of driving a car, when you've been driving for 15 minutes and you suddenly realize that you don't remember the drive, you've just
Yeah.
been doing the drive, but you don't remember the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're ungrounded. Or if you're at a party and you're talking to somebody or at a meeting and you space out and you miss a whole chunk of conversation. That happens to all of us. And so you can imagine that it's hard to be intuitive or even know what our feelings are, even when we're out of our body. But the moment that we come into our body, own our space,
Yeah.
then we can so much more easily tap into our own inner guidance, our own intuition, our own answers, because fundamentally we are looking for our own answers and our intuition is there to help us find our own answers. But without being grounded, it's like hit or miss, I think might be the
Yeah.
expression, right?
Yeah, I see it sometimes as when we're ungrounded, we're more just the effect of all the energy coming at us.
Yes.
And we're in that reactionary, like kind of a whirlwind of just blowing around in all this energy. Whereas when we're grounded, we can be at cause. We can make a very present response to all that
Yes.
energy coming at us. And we can be aware of what that energy is.
Yeah.
And respond to it with our creativity rather than just be sort of blown away, swept away by the
Yeah.
current. Yeah.
I mean, exactly what you said. It allows us to respond rather than react. We're taught just to react, our cultural programming or whatever. Everything's kind of just reactive, but being present, we can have that opportunity to pause
Yeah.
and respond instead of just like what you said, being the cause, you said. And, like, so we're not just, oh, this is happening to me and this is happening like a
Yeah.
pinball machine.
At the effect of all the energy.
Yeah, it's like we get to decide how we would like to be and how we would like to own our power and how we would like to respond and have the space. It gives us space.
In the space. Yeah.
It's like,
To be.
because when I was a kid, even though I was really intuitive and I was constantly tuned into the struggles and the problems that were really going on with people around me, I wasn't very grounded. I didn't know about ground. And so luckily we had hundreds of sheep and I would go and I would sit in the middle of the sheep flock in the
Oh.
grass and the sheep were just so grounding and calm, and they would just be, and the grass and the field and everything.
Yeah.
That was me grounding myself unknowingly, but it
Hey, I
was,
love that though. Your intuition guided you to like, this is what feels good.
yeah.
Even if
I
you
mean,
didn't have the words for why or just,
yeah.
yeah.
But I remember being ungrounded and traveling, kind of just traveling out of my body. I would even sometimes purposely travel out of my body when I was a kid, like lie on the grass and just be aware of being out of my body and
Yeah.
being back in my body. But I didn't really know what that was all about until
Right.
later on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had that experience. I didn't have the pleasure of growing up in very much nature. I grew up in a city, but I remember my school experience was one of being out of my body.
Yes, me too.
And I should say, I don't remember my school. There's so much about my younger years that I don't remember because I was not grounded. Like your example of when you're driving and all of a sudden you can't quite remember the
Yeah.
previous 15 minutes. That was me for a good chunk of my childhood.
Yes, me too. I mean, I remember the teacher saying, writing, back at, this was a time when teachers could say things that they can't say now, but the teacher wrote, is a daydreamer on my report card, daydreaming. And I was. I mean, obviously,
Compliment. I love that.
I was, well, exactly. I was tapping into my imagination
Right.
because the school setting was really boring for me.
Yeah.
And so I was tapping into my imagination. And
Yeah.
that's,
You
if
were
you
going
keep,
somewhere else that was a lot more fun.
yeah. But if I had known how to be grounded, it would have been a game changer. Really imagine starting out school grounded. Wow.
On the ground and be
You
present.
know,
Yeah, you probably
and
would have
being
scared the teacher a little bit.
and being able to navigate
Yeah.
social interactions with your peers when you're grounded, and
Yeah.
being able to know what is information that's useful to you and what's not information that's useful to you, and what directives to follow and what not. Because when you're grounded and somebody gives you a directive or opinion that's not aligned for you, you're tapping into your intuitive awareness, or your ability to
Oh,
have
yeah.
access to your knowing, and you're going, is that aligned for me or is that not? Rather than, if you're out of your body, you're more likely to follow a directive that might not